Men or women with children, with anything, when you remove accountability, I'm in business. If there's no accountability, my employees, male or female, don't perform well. Very few do. There's a handful of people that are go-getters no matter what. They're motivated and they're going to show up. But if you don't have baked in accountability of the process, people just don't show up, and then they feel entitled and they feel like they get screwed even though they're the ones not performing and not doing their job. This applies to anything in life, particularly marriages. But what we're talking about right now is a system that puts all the accountability on men and none on women.
I don't even agree on getting married on paper and under these Western laws. It makes no sense in terms of if you actually read the terms and conditions of what you're signing up for. It's the dumbest business move ever. So Adam, what would you recommend a guy who's watching us talk about this? What would you recommend for men in 2025? What kind of advice would you have for a man who's trying to get his life in order, whether it's business, fitness? What kind of advice would you have for that type of person?
I'm Adam Allred. I have been in the social media space for the last year and a half, sharing a lot of my thoughts on the journey that men are going through in this very complicated modern world and the challenges that we face in this space. And it's been something of a journey for me, but I've found a lot of connection with a lot of men who are going through similar journeys, or in some cases, guys who are going through far worse things than I've ever gone through. And there's a real need right now for men to come together and gather in tribes like we've done for thousands of years. And it's been encouraging to me to see how many men this message is resonating with and how many men are feeling the same thing and doing the same sort of work. So I'm excited to be here with you, Manib. You're on the same journey. And I respect it.
Welcome to another episode of the Punches and Prayers podcast. Today, I have a gentleman from America that also works in the sales industry. I've been following his content for the past year that I was going through my journey, and we finally got a chance to collaborate. He's a guy that speaks about men's rights, masculinity, masculine excellence, and how not to be a bitch to your wife. That's one of the things he talks about. And I love his slogan. He's got the Make Men Great Again hats on, and I'm sure he sells that merchandise as well. So without further ado, please welcome Adam Allred. Adam, welcome to the show.
Manib, I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time in coming.
Yes, sir. I've been following your content, man. You're one of my inspirations. There's lots of guys that are my inspirations. You're one of them. When I was going through my stuff, your content really helped me. I was watching another guy. I was able to get Steve Maeda on. He's one of my inspirations as well, too. A guy who I looked up to. He talks a lot about this stuff, right? Especially what men go through today. And there's not a lot of us out there anyways. It's a small space because not a lot of men have their testosterone or their balls dropped right now to talk about this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Yep, I understand.
So for the audience who don't know you, like Adam, just a quick, who's Adam? What kind of work does he do? And what kind of stuff that he does with men? I know you're in sales as well, too. Like you're in door-to-door sales as well, right?
Yeah, so door-to-door sales is where I started. I live in Utah, and Utah is like the hub for door-to-door sales. Yeah. So 20-something years ago when I was going to college, I got recruited into this crazy world. And it's like the hardest day of your life on repeat every day for the summer. So you go out in between, semesters during the summertime and you knock on doors wherever in the country. And when I got done with college, I realized I had kind of one or two. When I was going through college, I had one or two options as a man if I wanted to be happy in my career. Find something you're passionate about or find something that makes you money. And I didn't have anything in college that I was passionate about, but I realized I could make some money in this door-to-door sales career. So over the last 20 years, this is what I've done for a career. I've built businesses around door-to-door sales teams. I've hired literally hundreds, thousands of mostly young men, some young women, but mostly young men who go out and do this. And I'm still in that space where I manage, train them, hire them, help them fight through the adversities they're going to face on the doors. And so much of this is a metaphor for the journey that men are going through in general. So as mentioned, about a year and a half ago, a little over, I just felt a need to start speaking up on this because I've seen so many of these young guys coming up and they don't have a framework of how to deal with adversity. They want to be men. They want to understand what that means, but they haven't been raised. And so there's a real absence right now of masculinity in society. There's been a real attack on it for decades now. And I still do my regular day job business of building sales teams and building businesses. But this has been something that I have felt has been like a passion project for me to start speaking about these things and try and give men some wisdom I've learned in the 44 years I've been on this earth that might help them move the needle a little bit and feel not stuck and feel like there's something that's a framework that actually makes sense. So yeah, that's So
you're 44, I'm 34. I also started in door-to-door as well too. So I sold door-to-door HVAC. Here we have water heater rentals and furnaces. We sell it door-to-door. So I did it for many years. I built teams all across Canada. And then I ventured out. I started another business related to home improvements. but I basically build basements, by the way. So I literally build people's basements. So my day job is I own a business called Assured Basements. We renovate basements here in Ontario, Canada, and we're the largest basement company in Ontario.
Hey, that's incredible, man. Good work. And it's always like impressive to me when I meet guys that have done door-to-door sales, because I know what it takes. You know what it takes. And so there's a real camaraderie there. You're like, you've been there, you've done it, and it means something.
6 years I did it. I did it 6 years managing teams. I was at one point traveling all over Canada. I was in Alberta, Quebec, and Ontario, back and forth, managing sales teams. And then I just got out of it. I mean, but I've been around it my whole life. I have a lot of friends even right now in the States, in Utah as well, working for Vivint and selling solar and stuff, and and alarms and stuff. So it's very common out there. I know that. I know about Utah.
My wife, so Vivint's kind of a competitor of mine, but it's also part of my family, because my wife was the #1 female rep of all time over at Vivint knocking doors. And her brother is one of the big wigs both of her brothers work over there at Vivint, and one of her brothers is like one of the big VP guys. So we were just on a Vivint trip a couple of weeks ago in Hawaii. And so yeah, it's cool that you know Vivint. they're the biggest.
Yeah, they're out here. They're in Canada out west too, in Alberta. They're pretty big out here. So Adam, what do you think it is to be a man today, man? Like, men are confused. Men are going through, there's a lot of divorce happening. There's a lot of, fake allegations against men. Men go through the grinder and divorced. It's not even 50-50. They say it's 50-50. It's not even 50-50. There's no default 50-50 custody, I believe, in any state, or in Canada at least there isn't. And they get destroyed in family court. They get destroyed in a system that's against them. And we constantly shit on them, right? We constantly want men to just, not even be there who they are, which is this, being of high testosterone performance individuals that were able to build the whole world. I always say it like this. I'm like, us men, we built the whole goddamn world. Our ancestors did. Then we built the roads, we built the railways, we built the buildings, and then we built the Burj Khalifa for Mia Khalifa to go on top of it and piss on all of us for free. Without any accountability. And it's like, if guys like me and you that come out, I mean, I'm sure you've read my comments on my page, some of the stuff we get commented on, and you do, we get hate, yet we're actually advocating for the same men that we don't want to go through this trap and go through the grinder. Why is it that we've demonized, just being a strong warrior of a man? Why that man ends up in jail, that man ends up nowhere, right? Why is it like that in today's society? It's a loaded question.
Well, so you're asking me why I think that's the case. It's a kind of complex issue, because I don't think this is some sort of natural expression of society. I think what we're seeing is the powers that be view us as livestock, and when you have strong men, it's harder to control the livestock. And so I think there's been a real concerted effort to erase masculinity, to destroy it. And a lot of this stems from the feminist movement, where that it was the inception of the feminist movement was actually controlled by men. Men pushed it. They had bad intentions, and ultimately it became a political tool for the forces that be, again, to break down masculinity. Not just to break down masculinity, but a lot of people miss this, to break down femininity. It's to erase roles entirely, ultimately to destroy the traditional family, because when men are weak, society is weak, families are weak. And when families and societies are weak, it's a power vacuum for these institutions, these power apparatuses that are looking to take control. So that, I really believe that's what's like triggered and motivating so much of the nonsense, because the reality is nobody's happier right now. Men certainly aren't, but neither are women. Women are not only unhappy, they're bitter, and they don't even understand why. They just are told to hate men and that they don't need men, which is, of course, absolutely absurd, because you articulated it so well. Every time I have a woman come on my post, in my comment section, and say, I don't need a man, I'm a strong woman, I'm like, well, everything that you're using, including the phone that you're using to make this comment, was created by men. Mm-hmm. You are protected by men. You have a roof over your head because a man built it. You have, climate control because men built that. And that's not to attack women. That's just to give a little bit of perspective for how insane this rhetoric is, that men are no longer needed in society. We don't need masculinity in society, because you erase that, And it's going to be and we have to a large extent, it's an absolute shit show right now for everybody. Nobody's happy. You get these liberal feminist women that get on their rants on social media and they go off, where have all the good men gone? There's no good men out there. And you're like, really? Well, there's no good men, first of all, that want to be with you. And second of all, it's your cause, this attitude that's destroyed masculinity. So it's super ironic to me.
No, it's crazy, man. Like, none of it makes sense. And for guys like me and you and the few of us that are out there, even putting ourselves out there, you know, what's crazy is some of my biggest viewership is ex-feminists. You brother, like women that are now 45 and 50, but it's too late. They realize too late that what they did to their ex-husbands and this, that, running them through the grinder wasn't the right thing to do. And then they're like, listen, we love your content. What you're doing it takes a lot of courage. But I'm like, it's too late. Like, you know, you could have straightened your life out. You missed out on your golden years. And then even if we say that to them, the same woman's like, well, what's wrong with a 45-year-old with baggage? It's like you can never win with them. You can never win with them in any way, right? And I don't know, man. Like in Canada here, the guys that are in my group, man, I basically deal with a lot of the guys that had fake allegations on them. And man, it's crazy the kind of allegations that men get put on them. It destroys them. Like, imagine you're a man who has 4 kids, you're married for 30 years, and then when you divorce the woman, she's like, oh, all these kids were born out of rape. Imagine what that would do to you. Like imagine what that could do to somebody, right? Like, just even facing these type of allegations. And here, the way they treat domestic, I don't know how it is in the U.S., it's almost like you're guilty until proven innocent, not innocent until proven guilty. It's like the book gets thrown at you, you have to go to jail, you know, you get restraining orders, you can't see your kids, blah, 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 blah. And then we're creating this epidemic of, I say the next epidemic, one of the epidemics that are out there is a single mother epidemic, right? We've created a single mother epidemic where these kids are going to be raised with these single moms, not the nucleus home. And who knows what the stats on that are going to be, because already statistics have come out that single mother homes don't raise good kids, right? I'm sure you can talk more about that. You know way more. You have 10 years on me. So what would you have to say about that?
To your point earlier about how the system is set up against men, even if it doesn't go so extreme as to be rape allegations, which that happens all the time, women, there's scriptures in the Old Testament to talk about this, about how, you know, it's better to dwell in the wilderness than with an angry woman, because these women, when they get vindictive, they become evil, man. There's a presence that takes over, and they become cruel, and their job is to destroy men. And the statistics are horrific. Not that good men can't come from single mother homes, because there's a lot of good men that do, but statistically, the odds are not great, right? Like it works against you. And so you have this generation, I believe, what I call it lost boys. These boys that are being raised by single moms, or they're being raised in homes where the father has been mitigated to a role of basically a bystander. He goes out and works, makes money, but the woman kind of rules everything. And so these boys come into adulthood and they have no idea what it means to be a man. They have no idea what masculinity looks like. And they've been conditioned to be yes men to females, to basically go through life checking off boxes of like, yo, this is what a woman wants me to do. And they think a woman is going to give them purpose. They're actually essentially looking for a mother to replace the mother of their youth. And obviously this is hugely bad for everybody in society, but we're seeing the consequences of it right now. This feminization of society, and femininity is fantastic. It's beautiful, but there's got to be a balance there. And right now it's deeply imbalanced. And these women, it's really myopic. So many of them, and there's a lot of good women, so I don't want to demonize all women, because there's a lot of really good women out there. I'm married to one, you know, like she's an absolute all-star. But these women that right now avoid,
right? You've been divorced once, right?
Oh yeah. I went through a really rough marriage, and I went through a really, really rough divorce, and I didn't get accused of any rape allegations or anything like that. But I ended up having to pay alimony, which is just absolutely insane. I pay child support as well, but I was paying alimony for years, which is just totally insane. I'm paying for another woman to live her life, and I get nothing in return. I just have to pay for another human being to live. We're no longer together anymore, but somehow she's entitled to half of what I earned, half of what I worked for and spent my whole life building. And then I have to pay her ongoing for years so that she can just kind of go do whatever she wants to do with her life. It's absolutely insane. It's bonkers. But what a lot of these women don't realize that, you know, when women are coming up, let me put it like this. When women are coming up and they're young, they have all kinds of options with men. They have men their age. They have lots of older men that have established themselves, that have resources. So they're kind of like able to just pick out of whatever guy they want, a high quality, attractive woman. When they have gone through a divorce, particularly when they have kids and they're older, in their minds, they remember back to the golden age when they were young, and they think that's how it's going to be when they come into this world freed from, whatever it is, from having a husband, and now they can go back into this world and celebrate their independence. But the reality is that high quality men aren't looking for that, and so what ends up happening is these women end up getting ran through by predators. Guys just take advantage of them.
They don't want to admit that. I tell them, like, what do you think? The thing is, when a woman calls me and says, oh, like, no guy wants my baggage, no guy wants my kids, they just want to fuck me and now they dump me. I'm like, well, what'd you expect?
Exactly.
Well, what did you expect?
Going to happen? Like, this is the reality that they just don't want to see. But if they open their eyes and pay attention, they're going to see that this is the playing field, because that's what women are going through right now. They're just absolutely like being taken advantage of, but it's of their own making, because they generally, a lot of them have pretty decent husbands. They're just not satisfied. It's not 50 Shades of Gray or whatever other, nonsense they have in their head. And so they think they're going to go find that when they become single and have 3 kids along with them, and it doesn't work that way.
The other thing is, like, I know I'll say something controversial, but I also think that this whole Western world of the past 100, 200 years of one man, one wife is the reason why this happened. If you study historically our ancestors, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and all the religions, the world didn't grow by one man, one wife in no religion. Christians had multiple wives. They just want to demonize this thing because Muslims are the only ones that are holding to it, that we believe in multiple wives. But if you study Christian values or any empire that the Christians had, whether it was the Romans, they didn't have one man, one wife, by the way. This whole one man, one wife gave a lot of power to women too, because they feel like they can't be replaceable, and then they know that the laws are going to screw men over. And most guys that are in my group, brother, most guys that even come to me that, that you think have a perfect marriage, that are posting with their knees down and putting the ring on the woman and, begging the woman for their, like, even the fact that just that cultural thing, like, you have to go down on your knees to beg a woman to marry you, like, that culture is so wrong. I so disagree with this. Right, like that's already letting go of your frame, like rule number 1. I never went down on my knees, but I just see guys on Instagram all over that think, oh, would you marry me and this, that. Those guys come to me and say, brother, I'm in a sexless marriage for the past 7 years. I'm only in it because I'm scared of the consequences that if I leave. That's most men today. I don't want to put a statistic out there because I don't have, but I can talk about my group. That's 8 out of 10 men that are married in over 7 years, I would say. They're just in it because they're like, you know what? I have to pay for so that's almost like paying alimony, because you're paying for a woman that doesn't sleep with you, that hates you, and that is using threats against you that if you do something, she will screw your life. That's a lot of men, brother, right? And I just think it's unfair that the law is set up that way. I'm a little bit different. I don't give a shit about material stuff. Guys like me and you that are hustlers, that have worked our way and worked our life, this is all material bullshit. It can come, it can go, it can come back. You can't break me that way, right? Like, but there's most guys that hold on to things because they're scared that, hey, I don't have the courage to go out there and make my own economy again because I'm unfit. I let go of my health. I let go of my fitness because of this woman. The reason I let go because I wasn't driven at home. And the sad part is like, they demonize us for wanting to have our rights of sex and all these other things too. Like, why is it like that if a man says like, hey, honey, I want you to dress up for me, but you dress up for the world, but you don't dress up for me. Oh, you should like me in pajamas. Like, this is what's happening today in society. Why? Why don't you dress up for your husband? Why not?
I think to your point, I mean, first of all, I'm a product of polygamy. So my ancestors, not too far down the line, were raging polygamists. And so I totally understand what you're saying. And I think the answer to your question of why is this happening is because when you have marriage with monogamy, it takes away accountability. And in the dynamic between a man and a woman, the man is bringing far more value to the table than the woman. Always, almost always. Occasionally you'll have the rare exception where the woman is the provider, but those are the rare exceptions. So before people start screaming, no, women, it's super 100%. Unlikely. The majority of the time, the man is bringing the majority of the value to the relationship. And so when there's no accountability in that relationship, and the woman now has entitlement to half of what that man has produced with his whole life, everything that he's built, she now can take half. A lack of accountability is what's really at work here, where women don't have to answer to anyone or anything. And essentially, I think a lot of women do this. I don't think it's conscious for most of them. I think it's on a subconscious level, but they look at women, they look at men and marriage as something of a retirement plan. Like, okay, if I can get into a relationship with a good man, I get this whole Cinderella wedding thing. I get to showcase that on social media. I get to feel really special. I'm going to hook him with this lure that I'm into him. And I have all this, I want to give him intimacy. And as soon as he gets hooked, and as soon as the accountability is gone, that lure disappears. That thing that she presented in the early stages of the relationship to get him disappears. And now she's like, go ahead, divorce me. I don't think they think this consciously, most of them, but they're like, the worst case, I'm walking away with a ton of money. I'm walking away with half this guy has. And then again, in their minds, they think that they're going to step into this world where they're treated like they were when they're young. And so there's this whole, fake reality that they're looking to. And then there's this entire lack of accountability in relationships. And I think that's what destroys everything. I can get my mind around the idea of polygamy, because I think when women are in a position where they have to compete, and competition maybe is not the right word, but where there's...
Well, they know they're replaceable easily. They know that society will replace them, and that their value won't be. Because here's the thing, like, the thing about monogamy has created more simps than anything. Won't you agree? Monogamy has created these simps. We talk about simps. I know I've seen your videos. You always talk about it, but no one talks about what created simps. Simps were created because of the society that was created around monogamy. That it's a one man, one wife, one mortgage. You take it up the ass. You work hard. Man, there's guys in my group. If I tell you some stories, multimillionaire, built his entire business, and did it the right way. One wife, 30 years, pandered to her, took it up the butt. Who knows what he did? Like literally just sucked it up. In the divorce, gave her everything, gave her the yachts, gave her the houses, gave her the cottages, and said, I just want a relationship with my kids. And that's the only thing she had that she knew that she had on him. Tells the kids, call the cops on the father after 30 years. And these kids, I don't understand what's wrong with them, because they're raised by these type of women. They call the cops. He can't see his own kids at 65 years of age.
After he gave up everything to see his kids. And you see the difference in the character there. Women, so many of them, and I see this as well, so many women will use the kids as pawns, as bargaining chips, where so many men, they just want to be in their kids' lives. They want to be present. They want to be part of raising, and they want to teach them. They understand how valuable it is for not only themselves, but for the children to have them in their lives. So this is just where I think so many of the problems, in fact, I think every single ill that we see in society right now is the weakening of men. And to your point, it's the entire apparatus is pushing this insane agenda to domesticate, to neuter men into these nice guy simp syndromes. Like the churches do it. Well, at least Christian churches. I can't speak to the Muslim churches, but the Christian churches, it's happy wife, happy life. It's like your highest priority as a man, at least within my church, was to basically be, it's not articulated like this, but to be a doormat for your wife, make her happy. It's your job to make her happy and understand her and lay down when she's upset because she's put on this pedestal of unaccountability by society.
Correct.
And it's an absolute epidemic. The nice guy syndrome is terrible, because if you want a happy relationship with a woman, you have to have accountability. Now, it's possible to do that within monogamy. It's just most men don't understand that, and they don't know how to do it. And you have to start your relationship that way, because otherwise you're going to get down a rabbit hole that you're never going to see the light of day again from, because you're going to start acquiescing to her. She's going to lose respect for you. A woman only wants to have sex with a man biologically. She's only wired to have sex with a man that she respects. And she's only going to have respect for a man that on some fundamental level gives her accountability. And women hate this, and they'll scream and say, no, that's not the case, but it's absolutely true. I see this all the time. The men that are having sex in their marriages, that are in monogamous marriages, it's because they're not controlled by their woman. And they know that the woman knows on some level that if she acts poorly, he's going to leave her ass. And whether that's she gets some of the material things or not, in her mind, there's an accountability. And so she naturally has respect for that man. She naturally has attraction for that man. But if that man doesn't have those boundaries, if he doesn't have that accountability built in from the beginning, dude, he's fucked. It's game over.
No, what you said is very important about churches and mosques. Even We're not to the level of Christian churches yet. We're getting there because this feminist stuff is a global thing. Even in my country, like back home where I'm from, Pakistan. Pakistan. But I was raised here, mostly in the Western world. I spent more time here in my life than I did over there. I spent 6 years there. And over there now it's changing. I have guys hitting me up from over there as well. Like, hey, like, you know, like here the courts are ruling in front of the women. Fathers haven't seen their kids over there. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. In my time, there was no such thing as a father not seeing his kid. There was no such thing as that. Now it's happening the same thing. The courts rule it in front of the favor of the woman. Because over there, the Me Too movement also took off. They call it their version of it. It's like my bed or my something, like my body, my right, and my bed. They added some, like they even made the matrimonial bed. Like it's my bed. I get to decide if I want to, you know, let you in it or not. That's kind of the slogan. But it's extreme feminism there too. And here's the crazy part. This is what I tell men. And I know you said a disclaimer. You said, you know, I have a great wife, and that's good. But I always tell people, don't be too naive. Anytime a great wife can also change, and she'll be left unaccountable. That's what you have to know. Because there's so much data and so much stories that I see. Because a woman can change at any time. You could be a third kid, and she has some postpartum, and now she says, now I'm this. And you have to be like, yo, what do you mean? Like, we had this plan. Like, when me and my ex and the stories, like the stuff that we discussed about, the stuff that she promised she will never do against me is the stuff that she did that and more, right? When it came to like leaving. And you won't never get a medal for being a man. Like, this is something I tell men. Like, some guys are like, bro, I did this for her, I did that. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. But guess what? You're never going to get appreciated for it. I know it would be nice to get appreciated for it, but you won't. I provided. I paid all the bills, by the way, in my marriage. I paid for the rent. I paid for everything, right? I paid for everything, vacations, luxury stuff, right? Stuff that I don't want to even talk about, right? But really high-end lifestyle. And guess what I had to hear when we were separating, the kind of conversations we're having? Oh, but why would I come back to you? You didn't buy me a house. And the reason, by the way, the reason I never bought a house is because I knew one day that if this was to go south, I'm not going to be one of these guys that gives away 50% of the house, because I see bare men here in Canada. What happens here, I don't know how it's in the US, is in most of these marriages, when the divorce happens, when the wife calls the cops, the man has to leave the house and live on the street or somewhere on a friend's couch while the mortgage is automatically being withdrawn from his account. And the woman is bringing other men to the house, and he's watching from the doorbell camera because he can't come because he's got a restraining order. This is the reality of manhood today in 2025. And then we're talking about how we're going to make men empowered and how the world is going to grow. This is the reality of a man today that people don't talk about.
So I had when I went through my divorce, I had my house paid for. It's $1 million plus. Right now it's probably worth about $1.5 million. Mm-hmm. That was paid for. When, to your point, when I got divorced, she took that. So I literally got my clothes and put it in my old truck and drove to my grandma's house. I had 50% custody with my kids. We were talking about this earlier. You said this. All I cared about was the kids. Like, I just wanted to make sure that I had custody of my kids, and the best that I could get was 50%. And so I'm living in my grandma's attic in a one room with the 3 kids when I have them half the time, and she's living in the house that I paid for, that I worked my ass off for. And the thing about that's also like kind of just an extra kick to everything is that me working for all of those things, she didn't make that easier. She didn't make it possible for me to thrive. Like, I had to do that in spite of her. So it wasn't like she was a contributor that was part of the process and she put in her work and now she's entitled to half of that, like in a real partnership where it's like, okay, you did half the work, I did half the work, makes sense, we'll divide this up half. No, I did all the work, and I had to do it in spite of all the resistance and the criticism and the negativity that you fed me. And now I'm living out of garbage bags, and you're in the house, and I'm paying you also to live in the house. And women don't understand this. Only men that have gone through this really understand how insane that makes you feel. Like, you feel like you're losing your fucking mind. You're like, dude, this is crazy. Like, how is this possible? In any other scenario that exists in the world, when somebody is the one providing, they're the one in control. That's how it works. So when a woman goes to work and she has a job, and somebody, a man usually, has provided her with that job, he's the one in control. He's in charge because he's the one providing everything. He's basically the employer. And I'm not saying that in a relationship it should be an employer-employee sort of thing, but there should be a recognition by society that whoever is providing the most is the one that should ultimately take the most when they leave. Like that's how it should be. And it's just not. It's absolutely bonkers.
So
And another point I wanted to say to what you were saying earlier is to men out there, because so many men are conditioned to the nice guy syndrome, right? Guys think that so many men, and I thought this in my first marriage, that if I'm just nice enough to her, if I just sacrifice enough for her, if I just provide enough for her, eventually she'll see my sacrifices and she'll see my effort and she will reciprocate. But the opposite is true almost universally. The more that you sacrifice and give and the more that they take, the more that they take and they don't give back. And then they feel entitled to it. And so this is where the whole downward spiral starts, is when men initially in the inception of these relationships get down on a knee, metaphorically, proverbially, and then they're on that knee for the rest of that relationship. And they'll never, like I said earlier, they will never see the light of day. You cannot love a woman or be nice enough to a woman to get her to love you back. You have to treat a marriage like a business, which means you have built-in consequences, you have built-in like framework, you have KPIs that you measure and you look at, and you manage the relationship. 100%. And you can do that in a monogamous relationship. So for me, coming into my second marriage, I learned so much from the first one, and I knew that I wasn't going to repeat the same mistakes. And one, I would encourage every man out there to get a prenup.
100%.
I did not get a prenup in my second marriage, but there were some specific reasons why, and it wasn't because I was naive or just being, with my head in the clouds doing the nice guy thing. But even in my relationship, I picked a lot smarter. I found a woman that wasn't already tainted by so much of this feminist bullshit. And I managed it completely differently. I set the standard right from the beginning. And I explained to her, I said, look, I'm going to treat you well. I'm going to show up for you. I will be a good husband. I will be a good father. I will be a good provider. I'm going to do all those things. But if you ever treat me less than how I treat you, it's going to be over. Whatever the consequences are, I'm out. I will never repeat what I did. So, and she understood that, and she was supportive of that. But even so, within my marriage with her, and she's phenomenal. She's the best human being I know, and I even put her above myself in terms of her character qualities and stuff. She's phenomenal. So I'm not a woman hater. I'm a hater of what has happened to women and the forces that have inflicted this. That's what I hate. But even with how awesome she was, every woman does this. They give you shit tests. They will see where you bend and whether you're going to get down on the knee and whether you're going to submit or not. And when those shit tests come, as a man, you got to know what your plan is. Exactly what's going to happen when a woman decides that she's going to test you and see if you're going to break or not. And you can't bend, you can't negotiate, you have to hold a boundary. And that doesn't mean you're an asshole about it. It doesn't mean you're disrespectful. It just means if you're ever going to disrespect me, if you're ever going to treat me like less than what I know I am, I respect myself too much to allow that to happen. So there's a hard line in the sand, and that starts with certain things like, for example, I will not engage in negativity with her anymore. I did that wrong in the first marriage. I would engage in it and I would try and negotiate with it. And then I would try and change and I would try to, come back to the table and let's make this work. Now I'm like, oh, you're treating me poorly. And I haven't been treating you bad. I'm out. You'll see me, later tonight and I'm not going to talk to you, or you'll see me tomorrow. I'm not going to talk to you until things have calmed down, and I will not feed any of this bad behavior with any attention or with any focus. I'm just going to separate myself from it. And if it continues, I'm going to leave permanently. Like it's going to be game over.
So how long did your divorce take, the first one? Like how long did that take?
The process?
Yeah.
Leading up to it.
I'm still in the system, by the way. I'm still in the system. I'm still in the process.
How long has it taken you? How long?
Well, we started in November 2023, and now we're still here. Still here.
Oh man, I've heard these. I've got buddies that have had these elongated stretches. I have to say that I was pretty fortunate. Like we went through mediation, and initially, I can tell you this whole story how it happened. But so we go to a mediator. And a mediator, her and I had already come to some ideas of how this was all going to get separated. And it was very favorable to her. And when we go to the mediator, this attorney doesn't represent me or represent her. He says to her, this is more than generous based off of here's all the information, here's all the finances, here's all the stuff you've accumulated. What you have on the table is probably better than what you're going to get if you go to court. But that wasn't good enough for her. So she's pushing for more and more. And I told her ultimately, I was like, look, the only thing I really care about is having 50% custody of the kids, which initially she told me she was going to fight me on. Yeah. I said, I'll fight you on that. I will go to court. There won't be any mediation. We'll go to court if it's going to be anything less than 50-50 custody. She backpedaled off of that. What's that?
How many kids did you have with her?
3.
Okay. Got it.
3. And so she backed, to her credit, she backed off of that. But in the process of that, I had to keep acquiescing to more kind of financial demands in this, which I was willing to do. But eventually got to the point where she agreed to the terms and signed the paperwork. But in the States, I don't know how it is in Canada, they've got like a 30-day grace period to change their mind. It's so insane. And I know why that is. It's because it feeds the attorney's pocketbooks, right? They're like, hey, as much as we can keep this thing going, we're making a way more money. So the whole system is set up just to totally fuck guys over, dude. And so, what's that?
And there's no justice in it anyway. Like,
no.
I'm going to justice. I'm like, you're looking.
It's just how bad are you going to take it? That's all it is. You're going to take it, but it's just how bad are you going to take it? So she agrees to this. And then she comes back and says, no, I want, and I'm in this process, she's taking the house, she's taking hundreds of thousands of dollars. She's taking everything. I'm walking away with garbage bags of clothes, but she was leaving my businesses alone, but I'm going to have to now pay her thousands and thousands of dollars every single month. Well, we had agreed on these terms, which were intensely favorable to her. All things as crazy as things are, these were still like intensely favorable to her in regards to how things already are. And, so she comes back and says, no, I want another $1,000 a month. And I'm like, at this point, I'd already acquiesced like 2 or 3 times. And I was like, no, we're going to go to court then, because I can't even afford to like live on my own. I'm going to have to live in my parents' basement for years, because I can't afford to pay for stuff right now as it is. Back then, this was, 5 or 6 years ago. And so I say, okay, we're going to go to court. Let's get a lawyer. So she gets a lawyer. My uncles, my dad, they're all attorneys. I call them and I say, hey, this is going to happen. I need to hire an attorney now. So they get me this gangster of an attorney. Like, they're like, this is the guy. Mm-hmm. And I pay my retainer fee. And he's like, look, I know who her attorney is. I've already destroyed him 3 out of 3 cases that I've gone against him. I've gone against him already 3 times and I've just eviscerated him. So we're good. And what you're offering her is insane. So we're going to take this back. And when I talked to her about that, I had this conversation with her. I said, look, if we're going to court because you keep demanding more money from me, I'm not arguing to get us to what we've already agreed on. If we're going to court, I'm taking everything that I can get. And what was absolutely insane to me was her surprise. She's like, you wouldn't do that to me. Exactly what she was doing to me. This is the whole like weird nonsense world that so many women live in where there's no accountability.
And when a man does it, he's evil. When a man does something even reasonable, he's evil.
He's evil. And in her mind, it was shocking. No, you're not. We'll argue whether I get more than what we've already agreed on, but we're not going to argue about what we've already agreed on. I'm like, no, if I'm spending money on an attorney and we're going to the mattresses, I'm going to go after everything. I'm going to get the best deal for me out of this because that's the only thing that makes sense. And I think that like was a reality check for her and I think probably her attorney's like, you better accept this because if you don't, he knew he had already got his ass kicked by this attorney. If you don't, it's not going to be good for you. So she called me back like a week later and she says, okay, I'll accept the terms. Let's not go to court. So then it moved pretty rapidly. So it was about an 8-month process from start to finish for the divorce, which per our discussion right now is really good. Like, at least for me, like that turned out really, really well for me. Even though I got screwed over royally, it was like less bad than what I've seen so many other men go through.
So you had to give the whole house? You didn't get 50% of the house?
No, I own a lot of businesses, and to what we were talking about earlier, where in business you can basically kind of structure it however you want to structure it on paper. Yeah. But the truth is that we were in a growth phase. So I knew that the businesses were going to kick ass. I knew that things were going to be fine financially in the future, but it was right now in survival mode for me. And so for me, I was like, look, leave my businesses alone, give me 50% of the custody, and I will give you everything else, including hundreds of thousands of dollars, all the money we have, including the house that's bought and paid for, including the brand new car we just bought, everything you can have. It's not fair. I'm not saying this was a fair arrangement. I'm just saying, hey, I'm gonna figure out how to cut my losses the best that I can. You take all that. leave my businesses alone, because if you come after me, my businesses don't look great on paper, and I promise you I'm going to make them look worse than they already look to the best that I can. And so like, this is not going to be something where you come in and cash out on my business. Leave those alone and you can take the rest of it. So I got nothing except my businesses were left alone, and ultimately that's been a huge win for me. But again, it wasn't fair. I don't want to make this sound like it was like this was a good arrangement, a healthy, like amicable arrangement. I got screwed over, but I got less screwed over than it could have been, and less screwed over than a lot of other guys have been screwed over out there.
Yeah. So she got remarried or no? Did she get remarried?
No, not yet. And I hope. I don't have any ill will towards her. I have a lot of ill will towards the whole process, and I have a lot of problems with how men are treated in our society.
The process enables these women to get their emotions out, right? That's the problem. It feeds into the process, enables into their emotions to get them to do evil things. If the process was more better, they wouldn't, and they can enable these women to do that. These women won't do that. Is that woman by nature can do evil things, right?
And so can men. The truth is that everybody can when there's not accountability.
I disagree though, because in most of these cases, I have barely yet to see a guy that comes after a woman's money. I've never seen that. Even
I'm not talking about that. Men are accountable. That's the problem. Is the accountability holds men like they're screwed. So the accountability is baked in. That's why guys, I'm just saying in general, as men or women with children, with anything, when you remove accountability, I'm in business. If there's no accountability, my employees, male or female, don't perform well. Very few do. There's a handful of people that are go-getters no matter what. They're motivated and they're going to show up. But if you don't have baked in accountability of the process, people just don't show up, and then they feel entitled and they feel like they get screwed, even though they're the ones not performing and not doing their job. This applies to anything in life, particularly marriages. But what we're talking about right now is a system that puts all the accountability on men and none on women. So men are the ones that are getting screwed. They're the ones that already have accountability. Women have none of it. So they take all this, they feel entitled to it, and then they think you're the bad guy, even though most divorces are instigated by women for trivial means. It's not because of abuse. It's not because of infidelity. It's because they just don't feel satisfied anymore. I'm not satisfied in my relationship anymore. I'm not getting what I need out of this relationship. And then again, they have this nonsense idea that they're going to go into the dating scene as an older woman with baggage, and then they're going to get what they need from some high quality guy that can't wait to meet them. And that fairy tale just doesn't exist.
Yeah, he's just going to use them for the time being and then move on. Or he's just using them while he's using many others at the same time. And they don't want to hear that.
The predators, or they're just going into a dating world where guys just don't take them seriously. Good quality guys have their pick of any woman they want. So the roles reverse. When we're younger, women have all the options. If you're, as a high quality woman, if you're a high quality post-divorce guy, you have all the options, whether you have kids or not. You have all the options, because women are like, there's a scripture in Isaiah that talks about how 7 women will try to cling on to one man. It's this prophecy of the last days. Seven women will try to cling on to one man. You see that when you get out of a divorce. When I stepped into the single scene, I wasn't even interested in getting married. I wasn't even interested in dating. But I had so many women proactively coming after me because I had a heartbeat. I had a job. I'd kept myself in shape. And women were like, holy cow, this dude is, I had all the options in the world. And I'm not saying that from an ego flex or anything like that. It's just the reality. And the opposite is true for my ex-wife, or for any ex-wife for that matter, generally speaking.
Hunter, I agree with you. Like, women actually like the fact that you're divorced, that you went through that, you were able to withstand that, you're a tougher guy, you came out. That also, again, they like us to be masculine men. And even I've met vegan women that say, I don't want a vegan husband. Like, I want a meat eater. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's these liberal women. They're like, where have all the masculine men? On some fundamental biological level, they know they want a strong man. But on the surface level programming bullshit, they're like, I hate men. Masculinity is toxic. But then they're complaining they don't have any good men. And they're just dating all these beta male guys and all these simps and these nice guys that aren't turning up. And they know, well, it's not attractive to them, regardless of what they say. And that's the point with women. You got to understand, men have to understand this. You never, ever trust what a woman says, ever, unless what she says aligns with what she does. What you do is you watch what she does. And then if what she says aligns with it, you can be like, okay, I can trust what she's saying. But you never just take a woman at her word, because they will say all kinds of stuff. But when circumstances change, when their emotions change, when they're going through whatever hormonal changes, suddenly all of those commitments and those promises go out the window. And suddenly it's just like, what can I get? I'm going to take what I can get.
I don't even agree on getting married on paper ever. And like under this law, under these Western laws, It makes no sense in terms of if you actually read the terms and conditions of what you're signing up for, it's the dumbest business move ever. I tell men, get married in your church, in the mosque, in the synagogue, and then over here in Canada, what we have is lawyers will do what's called a common law cohabitation agreement. So it's basically, it defines the relationship, and even in common law, so that she can't come after your assets or whatnot. That's the safest way today. Doesn't mean it's still safe. A woman can still say, I was living with him, I want alimony, blah, 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 blah. But in today's day and age, that's the safest bet. But once you sign that piece of paper, man.
Well, and I'm going to sound hypocritical for this because I didn't do that my second time around. Again, there were reasons why I didn't do that. But at the end of the day, I was still taking a risk. And I don't regret that decision now. I've been married for years. We have a child, and it's been phenomenal. I couldn't imagine a better, happier situation. It's just been so good. However, I'm in the exact same boat as you. I had a buddy that I married in Costa Rica. I performed the ceremony, but they didn't actually get married. They were just doing a ceremony. So he's in a monogamous relationship, but it's not sealed with any sort of state authority, because when you get married, you are including now the state and this government apparatus to inject itself into the whole process. So what you want to do is, if you're going into a relationship, particularly, and I believe in monogamy. I believe that having a healthy relationship with a good woman, not that I'm opposed to polygamy. I'm not. I understand different cultures, and I also understand that the inception of Christianity came from polygamy. I understand all of that.
But people don't want to accept that. Christians don't want to accept that, though. A lot of Christians don't want to accept it.
Mainstream Christians will argue how that's not the case, and you're just like, it absolutely is, and I've always known that. I'm like, no, polygamy has been baked into the system from the very beginning, and we just live in a different with different cultural norms now, so we see it differently. So again, I don't throw any stones at polygamy. I'm just talking from the point of monogamy, the culture I'm in, that I still believe that you can have really healthy monogamous relationships. They just have to be managed really carefully, and you have to set them up from the very beginning to do that. Otherwise, you're going to get in this situation where you're totally screwed over. So I believe monogamous relationships are great. I believe you can make commitments between you, her, and God, but don't include the state. Don't put the state in there, because once things go south, you are the one that's going to get screwed. 100%. And the likelihood of it going south is greater than the likelihood of it not going south. And even I don't know what the divorce rate is in Canada. I think in the US it's probably about the same, but in the US I think it's about 60%, 55 or 60% is the divorce rate right now. So it's more than half, right? And even in the remaining percent that don't get divorced, the majority of those are pretty unhappy relationships. Like you were saying earlier, guys are like, they've been conditioned to submit, so they don't even have the will, the masculinity, the testosterone to stand up for themselves anymore. So they've just been steamrolled for so long that they've given up the ghost, and they're in zombie mode for the rest of their lives. But I completely lost my train of thought where I was going. What were we just talking about?
We're talking about like the government not being involved, right? The government not being involved in your marriage. Like that's the best way to do it, even though you took that risk.
Of people that are unhappy in relationships is really high, but even when they haven't been completely steamrolled over, they're just making calculations like, how bad am I going to get screwed if I separate? It's better for me just to stay in the hell I know than go through this hell that I don't know how bad it's going to be. So I'll just stick it out. And I see a lot of that, man. When I went through my divorce, I had literally dozens of my friends that I thought were in good marriages. Dozens of my buddies reached out to me like, dude, what was it like to go through the process? I have a very close family member that asked me that and actually came to the mediation with me. He's like, dude, can I come sit in on this? I had no idea. I had no idea what he was going through. But like so many guys are just in very unhappy relationships because they're sexless. They aren't getting anything out of it. They're basically an ATM. They're basically an emotional punching bag, and they just have to take it. And when I went through that, I couldn't believe how many guys were just like, dude, what's it like on the other side? What was the process like?
Way too many guys reached out to me because they're like, hey, man, by the way, just to let you know, brother, like I'm going through this too. Brother, I'm going through this, brother. And I was just like, whoa. And that's how this thing was born, right? Like, it was born when I first went to jail for the accusations. When I was in there, I saw men crying. I want to go back to her. She did this. I'm like, why would you want to go back to her? Now you can get the 20-year-old. I'm talking to the uncles. And I was just like, this is sad, man, the state of masculinity. So the first thing I did was build a boxing gym. And then I wanted to get feedback of what's happening in the streets. Because when you're in a marriage, especially your first marriage, you're kind of blinded. You don't care. You're kind of like this. And which is sad, by the way. And I take accountability. This us men, we get too comfortable in our, white picket fences or whatever you want to call them, that we don't care if societal things when we're just, when things are good. And I think that's a coping mechanism, or some kind of lost in the sauce that we shouldn't do. We should be there for causes. And when I was inside that prison, the second time, like, you know what? I'm going to speak up about this. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Because I've been talking about this stuff on the low key since 2014, 15, even when I was like 25 years of age. I'm 34 now. I was always talking about this stuff on the low key in men's circles and stuff, not like publicly. And I was like, you know what? I don't get where society is going, you know? And they don't understand. They're giving rights to pedophiles now. They're giving rights to, they have their groups, you know that, right? Like in North America, they have pedophilic groups, and they're going to get rights soon.
I'm very aware of it. Yeah. The pedophiles are in control right now. Yeah. Like in the power apparatus of our government right now, a lot of it are these pedophile rings where you have these people in power that are absolute sickos, and they're all united in this. And so they're creating this culture that's normalizing this kind of shit.
And I used to always, like, even when I was like not married, I used to always like ask myself questions about, like, are we men truly monogamous? And if we are, how long can we last monogamous? I used to ask this question a lot. And even guys that's claim, like, you know, I speak to all faiths. I have Christians in my group, Muslim guys. And I ask them, even the guys that are happily married and monogamous, I'm like, listen, if your wife tomorrow said that I'm okay with you being polygamous, wouldn't you? 100% I would, bro. 100. So it's like, you're still, yet you can be happy, but you can also be more happy. No, you get what I know what you're saying.
You're stacking more of that stuff you have to manage, right? Like, to me, I get the idea of polygamy. I have no moral problems with it. I have more practical ones in concept, and I've never participated in it, so I don't know, what it actually looks like being involved. But I'm just like, dude, would I want 4 wives, or would I just want one really good wife? And in my mind, I just would rather have one really good wife. But to the point of this conversation, I can see the idea that multiple wives creates accountability. Mm-hmm. And it creates a system that doesn't leave the man in such a vulnerable position where he's now like cut off from sex. Yeah. He's now in a position where she has all of the control because it's her, like you said, it's her bed. Mm-hmm. It's my choice, or whatever that phrase is.
That's the phrase in back home in my country. But my grandfather, my mom's father, he had 2 wives. He lived the happiest, bro. He did 3 days with each and 1 day to himself. So 7 days a week were split up, 3 days to each wife. Built 2 big mansions for them. Had multiple kids. Had 18 kids. And Sunday was for himself. That was his own day. And he had his own condo for that. But man, he was a boss. He lived a different life. And he was able to do it. And both wives got along. Like, both wives were best friends. They were better friends to each other than they were to him even. Let's put it that way.
Well, and I can also see that. I can see if you manage it well. If you don't, it's going to be chaos. But if you manage it well and you pick the right girls and then you have their accountability, women need other women. And so if you have women that can communicate with each other, they don't have to have the man as the sole source for all their emotional needs or whatever else. I can see the practical value of that.
So you guys have Donald Trump now as president. Do you think he's going to make any changes to family law? And is there going to be, because, you know, like a lot of people get lost in the sauce. They're like, oh yeah, we have a conservative, you know, president now and this and that and the other. But like, is he actually going to implement real conservative traditional values and change something? What I've always been advocating for is a basic conservative, whether it's Canadian Prime Minister or US, should change this divorce laws. Like, these are outdated laws that don't work. They feed the system. They feed the policing. They feed an entire ecosystem to screw men at the end. And a screwed up man is a screwed up economy. But yet you want some quick cash based on this divorce. Why isn't it default 50-50 custody? Why isn't it like, hey, like, it's not you're not gone through this whole ringer of a system. And I don't know, but I don't think Donald Trump's going to do anything for that. Like, he's never talked about it.
Well, I haven't heard him speak on it exactly. So I doubt there's going to be any changes made, but he's got 4 years. So who knows what kind of comes down the pipeline in 4 years. But also I think I love Donald Trump. So I'm a huge.
No, I love everything about him so far, but I also want to keep these guys accountable. Like, I only love them to the fact to keep them accountable.
Right? Okay, we go back to accountability. Everything goes back to accountability, right? And people in power are the people you have to hold accountability the most. So I love Donald Trump. However, he's not really a conservative. Let's be honest. He was a Democrat donor most of his life. Yeah. And the leadership that he brought with him, Tulsi and Elon Musk and Vivek and RFK, these top echelon leaders, They're all ex-Democrats. What we have right now is a different party. It's not really it's labeled Republican, but it's not really a Republican party. It's really at this point, it's like the sane party versus the insane party. It's not even about traditional conservative values. It's just about like what actually makes sense and what actually works versus the absolute circus that the left has become. They're just totally insane. And it hasn't always been that way. It used to be there was a good kind of balance, and like you had good ideas on the left, you had good ideas on the right. You worked it out, you argued your points, and you tried to make the best decision. Now you literally have no good ideas at all on the left, like zero. Everything is just an agenda, and it's all part of this programming to feed the power apparatus. And they've got all their brown shirt lemmings that have been just totally brainwashed and hypnotized to go around, and they can't even think for themselves. They're just absolutely in these echo chambers and these zombies. I'm like, look, dude, for example, I am a conservative, but if there was a leader that came up in the Democratic Party that became president and they wanted to go after the system, they were like, hey, we're going to hold the system accountable. We're going to cut back the spending. We're going to go after the IRS. We're going to lower taxes. You know what I would do? I'd be like, man, maybe I need to rethink this. I would be open to that. I'd be like, okay, this is a win for all of us. Nobody loses in this. But when it's a Republican president, the left is just raging lunatics. Like, you're like, dude, it's just all it is hate Trump and hate conservatism. And there's literally not a single good idea coming out of the left right now.
I saw the speech that he just gave two nights ago. The entire Liberal Party was sitting down. The left was sitting down. They had play cards up. They had to kick somebody out too.
That's their only position now is hate Trump. That's all they have for their platform is whatever Trump is for, hate him. But Trump, they can say how dumb Trump is all day long, and they just keep losing. They just keep losing to this guy, and they can't stop him. Trump is playing chess because he's taking up practical, pragmatic positions that actually make sense. And then it forces these lunatics to take up these insane positions, which they do so quickly because it's just all about hate Trump. Again, zero good ideas, zero good legislation coming out of the left. It's all just been chaos for the last 4 years with Biden. And now we have a president that's actually doing something that benefits all American people, whether you like Trump or not, his personality. I get why people don't like his personality. I get why it rubs them the wrong way. Some of the stuff Trump says and does, I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you sound like such an idiot. But he's not. He's a freaking genius. But he's really implementing healthy things that have to be implemented. Like these budget cuts have to happen. We have to pull back the government. We are on a fiscal free fall right now. And if we don't have a parachute of some sort that like mitigates the fall, it's going to be freaking game over for everybody. And the left can't see that because they just hate Donald Trump so much.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question about Donald Trump changing laws because he's been through what, 4 divorces or 3 divorces? Yeah, this is his 4th wife. But he lost a lot of money in them too. I watched articles on him when what was it, Ivanka, when he divorced her, he gave her a lot of money, and he talked about how he never wanted to get married again, but he still did it. He went through the ringer 3 times, and good thing is his kids still stick up for him, which I respect a lot. That shows you a lot of character. But I'm just wondering, a guy who's been through that and who believes in that should change these laws. Need to change, man. Like, I don't see any good happening to men in the next 10 years or 15 years if we go down this path, man. Like, it's like we're a minority, even us that are speaking up. Most men can't speak up against this. They're too scared of the consequences. They're too scared to you know the kind of DMs I get? I'm sure you get them too. From the most alpha male guys. Yo, brother, I love what you're doing. I love every single thing. I don't know how you get the courage to speak up about this. I can't even talk to my wife about this. Or I'm in a job that if I do speak up about this, I'm going to get fired or whatever. That's most men. It's a sad place that you have to even read that message. I'm like, that's sad that, like, I'm no messiah, bro. Like, I don't want to be the guy that, like, wants to be talking about this. I'm just genuinely, like, bringing this awareness. It's a cause I took. And I always tell men, feminists have numbers. They don't have no substance. They have numbers, though. They have delusional numbers. We don't even have numbers. We have substance.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to articulate it. And the only reason why feminism exists is because men are controlling it. Like, if there weren't men controlling it, these feminists who think they're proud and empowered and whatever else because of feminism, like, you're just a piece you're a pawn on the chessboard. That's what you are. And you don't, the whole feminist movement, that's what it is. And they don't have the ability to conceptualize that because there's not like a lot of critical thinking going on nowadays in general for men and women. It's just so much of just like tribalism, buy into the programming, whatever the media tells me, I'm just going to regurgitate that. I don't know what my thoughts are. Let me watch CNN, and then I'll know what my thoughts are on that subject.
Wokeism. It's extreme woke ideologies everywhere.
It's a religion. It's wokeism. It's a whole cult, right? Like it's this whole new religion thing that's going on right now that people worship the system. I mean, it started like this became so obvious to me with the whole COVID vaccine sort of thing. Like everybody on both sides of the aisle knew that big pharma was bad. Like we knew that they were bad. They've lost countless lawsuits for absolutely lying to people and killing people so that they could make profit. Like everybody knew that. And the second it became a political issue and the left was championing COVID and this whole, big pharma like is our savior sort of thing, you saw this entire segment of the population get behind something that everybody knows is bad. Big pharma does not give a shit about your health. They want you to be sick forever. They want to make profit on you forever. It is business at its worst. It's just huge, corrupt, powerful people that want to get as much as they can get, and we are livestock to that system. And everybody knew it until all of a sudden it became political.
So Adam, what would you recommend a guy who's watching us talk about this? What would you recommend for men in 2025? What kind of advice would you have for a man who's trying to get his life in order, whether it's business, fitness, a combination of everything? What does a man have to, what type of mindset does a man have to go into these type of different streams that he's going to, at one point deal with a woman, at one time have a baby mother, at one time deal with maybe potentially marrying? What type of mindset does he need to have to survive in this type of environment? Because look, 80% of suicides are men, right? So what kind of advice would you have for that type of person?
So the first one, depending on your age, I'd say go get your hormone levels tested. Start with that, because that makes a huge difference, right? Like if you have low testosterone, I know as a guy, because I got on testosterone about 4 years ago.
Oh, you're on TRT?
What's that?
TRT. You're taking TRT?
Yeah, I got on TRT 4 years ago. I went in, my levels were really, really low. I was having crashes in the middle of the afternoon. It was hard focusing, didn't sleep well. I was having all these symptoms. And one of my buddies was like, dude, you should go get your hormone levels tested. And I was like sub 200. So at like really, really low. The doc was like, bro, like, how are you even functioning right now? So when I started taking testosterone, it made a huge difference. It was a huge boost again in this idea of masculinity that will happen through the hormone treatments. I'm not saying every guy needs it. I'm just saying especially if you're of a certain age, 35, 40 plus, that's a good place to at least start with something that will give you some help. But I think much deeper, more importantly than that, we as men have to recognize that we have to start by having self-respect. The issue right now is men don't have respect for themselves. And it's for all these reasons. I'm not throwing stones at men. It's a complicated issue that's been going on for a long time. But men have to start by saying, like, I'm the most important relationship that I have in this world, myself, my relationship with me. And I've got to respect this guy. And by respecting myself, I can't tolerate disrespect from other people. You cannot be a man and be in a relationship where you're being disrespected. You can't. You're something else, but you're not a man. You're something else. I don't even know what to call it. We call it simps or beta male, but it's not a man. And no man can be. This isn't a knock or attack on anybody. It's just a reality. Like if the only way to be a real man is to respect yourself. And the only way you can respect yourself is by not tolerating disrespect from other people. So first recognize that, and recognize that women are not your purpose in life, and women are not better than you. You can't put a woman on a pedestal. That doesn't mean you don't love her. You don't show her deference. I do with my wife. I treat her with respect. I take care of her. I show her deference, but she's not better than me. I don't ask her for permission. Yeah. I, out of respect, communicate what I'm doing with her. And if there's a conflict of interest, out of respect, I will compromise with her on things like, oh, I didn't understand you were doing that. Let's have a conversation about it. But I'm never in a position where I'm like, I need to ask somebody else for permission. Because I'm a sovereign man. I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm going to do it with all the consideration for my wife, because I love her, I respect her, and she's the most important relationship that I have in this world. But I am never, ever going to allow myself to be a beta male anymore. I'm never allow myself to take disrespect, because I like myself too much. I respect myself too much. And I recognize at the end of the day that this is the most important thing I control, is me, who I am. And it's not for selfish reasons. I don't promote this to say, men, just go get yours and screw everybody else. I think that's a really toxic mindset. It's because when I'm powerful, when I'm the best, most vibrant version of myself, I'm better for everybody else. A
100%.
powerful man will manage a relationship well, and his wife will be happier. Like you said earlier, like a good woman can turn into a bad woman really quick if the man is the wrong guy, if he's not managing it well. But if a man knows how to manage, even a woman that's not so good can suddenly step up with the right guy, because the guy knows how to manage it. He knows how to put in this accountability. He knows what her buttons are, what levers to pull. He's strategic. He's managing it well. He understands the dynamics. He's invested in making sure his relationship is better. So yeah, I would just say that's kind of a long way of answering your question, but get your hormone levels checked and then really dive into your own self and say, who am I? What do I really want out of life? What makes me powerful? What makes me vibrant? What expands me, makes me successful? And that is your purpose. Your purpose is, everything else is a side quest to that. That is the primary purpose of every single one of us. It's to level up and become the best version of ourselves.
Adam, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. If I come out to Utah, I'm going to definitely come out to see you.
You better, man. I'm going to get you out here to Utah. We're going to get you on our show. We're launching a show in a month and a half. So I want to get you out here and sit around the fire with us. 100%.
And keep doing what you're doing, man. Like, you're one of the guys that inspired me. And there's lots of men, I'm sure, that are inspired too. And with that being said, man, you're going to see this podcast up, and I'm going to definitely come see you in Utah. That's a given already.
Manib, I'm looking forward to it, man, and a lot of respect for what you're doing. I love it. This is what gives me a lot of hope for the future, is linking up with guys like you and seeing there are men speaking up. We might be small in number, but I think the number is growing, and I think the pendulum is starting to shift and come back to something that's much more rational.
For the viewers, where can my viewers find you if they have to look at your stuff up? What kind of links can you provide?
Check me out on social media, Adam Allred Official, YouTube. Come be part of the party, man. I'd love to see you there.
All right, buddy. Thank you, sir. Have yourself a great rest of your weekend, and I'll be linking up with you very shortly.
You too, brother. Appreciate it.
Be safe. Bye-bye.